YouTube, welcome back to another video. In today's video we're going to be doing two haircuts in one. We're going to be doing a taper for a mullet, and then we're going to be balding him out and giving him a bald fade. He ended up changing his mind after I was done and wanted it switched up a little bit. So right now we're going to start with that bald line, put our first initial guideline in, and then we're going to go no guard open and close it up as we work our way down. We're going to use our one guard open, close it up as we make our way down, just like we did with that first initial guideline. I changed up my system here a little bit just because it is a mullet and I like to keep the parietal ridge a lot thicker. So I'm going to go with my 3 guard that you see right now all the way open and just kind of scoop out, try to grab, freestyle this area, try to grab not as much hair from the parietal ridge. And then I'm going to be using my 1.5 guard and kind of splitting the guards, if that makes sense. So I'm going to go kind of halfway in between my 3 guard and my 1 guard that I was using. Here you see I'm going to use that 1.5 guard and split the difference of the guards, and I'm going to be scooping out behind the ear just to kind of lighten up that area in the back. Followed up with the number 2 and just keeping that scooping motion all the way through. I'm going to be doing the same method on both sides. The other side I'm just going to kind of let you watch and kind of follow along. Use my thin end shears, not too much, just to try to make sure I got the right length on the parietal ridge, just so the hair can still flow backwards. He does more of like a comb over, slick back mullet, if that makes sense. Same steps on this side, balding out, cleaning up, using my no guard open about a 1/2 inch up. This side's going to look a little bit more stretched because there is less hair. So I'm going to be using my number 3 guard all the way up to that parietal ridge. He doesn't do a hard part or anything, so it's going to be a 3 guard all the way up to that parietal ridge, working my way down to that taper. With tapers, you're going to be using a lot of your corner just to kind of slowly etch out the area. As you can see, it's kind of weird. You got 360 Jeezy in the background doing the same thing. You can kind of see I'm just doing real short strokes, just like that video in the background. Now with my 2 guard, I'm just going to be scooping out that area right before I get to that parietal ridge. Then I'm going to be following up with the number 3 where that comb over part starts. I got my 1.5 guard now, just doing some detail work using those corners. So all I'm doing is splitting where I see it being darker. I'm using my guard and cutting in between the hairs just to lighten it up. Now I'm using my number 3 guard and just coming right off the head. Whether you do it straight up and down, vertical or horizontal, you can still come off the shape of the head, and that's what I'm doing here, going in at all angles just to clean up. Now I'm going to go back through and detail both sides, and it is in about 15 minutes real time he decides, hey, I don't really think I want this mullet anymore. So right here I'm just detailing the back of the neck just to kind of get that flow going. Clean up under the neck as well. I didn't put that in here because he ended up changing his mind once I showed him. And then the second haircut I do speed up quite a bit just to kind of give you guys the idea of what I'm doing. So right here he's going over his hair, trying to decide what he wants. Right here he's like, nah, this is good, this is good. And then I'm like, dude, you're not gonna make me feel bad if you have me change it. Now he's explaining what kind of fade he wants, because he never got a fade. He's been getting a mullet since he's been with me, so he's just explaining he doesn't want the hard part. He wants a bald fade all the way around, keep the top longer, still comb it over. I'm gonna have you guys watch this. So all I'm doing here is I'm just parting the hair, getting the fringe area out of the way so I don't cut it, and I'm gonna be using my 76ers 3.5 guard and going up and just removing all the bulk all the way around the head.
DJ Steve.
I'm using my comb to keep that guideline. Now I'm following up with my number 3 guard. I'm going to do a fade down system, so I'll go for my number 3 open, close it up, work right underneath where I just was. This here I'm going to my number 1 just to kind of build a base for where I want my fade to end. I'm sorry, looking back at it, I used my number 2 at the parietal ridge instead of my number 3. That's why I went to my number 1. I was confused for a second. Then I'm going to put my guideline in right now, do my no guard open, about a 1/2 inch guideline, and work my way down from that. I sped it up a lot right here just so I can try to get it under 10 minutes for you guys, but it's 2 haircuts, so I kind of cut it pretty close. Got my 3 guard just detailing. Now I've got my flash FXs using the corner. I put the line in with my flash FXs, so whatever you put that first initial guideline in with is what you're going to take it out with. It's a good rule of thumb. Same thing on this side, guys. I'm going to use my number 2 guard right up to that parietal ridge. I'll probably follow up with my number 3 as well. Then I'm going to drop down to probably my 1.5 guard, work right underneath that 2 guard, down to my 1 guard, to my 1/2 guard, no guard, open all the way closed. I'm just going to let you guys watch this process unfold. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know if there's anything that you would have done different. I appreciate you guys. And also, if there is anything that you guys would want to see on YouTube, I'm definitely newer at this, so I'm still trying to figure everything out. I'm probably going to do a couple reaction videos. I'm going to try popping out 2 videos a week for the next 3 months. Try to see if that ends up changing my algorithm on YouTube. I'm really trying to grow, really trying to grind at this. I'm really trying to get into more of the education. I love cutting hair, but I love educating more. I love watching this process because you can just kind of see it come to life. It's kind of like a crazy thought, but if you can visualize a fade before you even cut the hair, then fading down will definitely be a lot easier for you rather than putting in guidelines. I feel like the guidelines kind of hold you back and kind of restrict you into a certain area, where fading down you're kind of going off the shape of the head and making it look the same as the other side, rather than, alright, I got an inch guideline here, I got a 1/2 inch back here, and I don't know, for me it's just a lot easier to stay organized, because if you've been cutting for a while, you know what a fade needs to look like. So I will try to do another video with putting the guidelines in, but for me this works, and it's definitely faster. I did both these haircuts in probably about 45 minutes, so That's just what works for me. Everyone's got a different process. Same process as the other side. I'm gonna go no guard open, start my off my initial guideline, I'm sorry, and work my way down, closing the lever notch by notch, using the corners, trying to light up some areas that look a little bit darker. I do have a window. You can kind of see my reflection. You'll probably see me look back a couple times. I'm using my mirror just to make sure those dark spots are really dark spots and it's not just the angle that I'm looking straight at the head. You want to be able to move the client, turn the client, get different angles, different perspective of the haircut. I kind of like to look at the client from the front view and angle my arms so I'm cutting while looking in front of him. Just kind of gives me a different perspective from what people are going to see while they look at him straight on versus from the side of the head. Because I'm sure you guys have noticed you cut someone and then they walk away and you're like, oh man, I see that line, and they're already out the door. What are you going to do? Yo, come back. Come sit down, man, I messed you up. Probably not gonna happen. So it's always good just to kind of get a different perspective, different angle. Use that mirror. Use guidelines if you have to. Fade down if you want. It's always good to try different techniques, different steps. You never know, it might work for you, it might not for the guy that's working right next to you. On the back of the head, I'm going to be doing the same process. So I started with my number 2 guard, worked down to my number 1. Now I'm at my half guard. Obviously, I'm really just using the corners on the back of the head. Once I finish this video up, I did see, a guideline from my bald line this line that I'm putting in right now. I think I might have pushed a little bit too hard, so I did have trouble taking this line out. And once I finished the video, in person it looked great, but once I finished the video and played it back, you can definitely still see the guideline from me putting this initial guideline in. So sometimes it does happen. You just gotta take your time, stretch the skin, really work out that line. Whatever you put that line in with is what you're gonna take it out with. You can see here I'm really using the corners of my blade. I can work pretty far up on the back of the head. As long as you got that blade turned to the side, it will cut right through the hair, debulking or getting little clumps of darker areas that the hair is a lot thicker. So when I detail, I usually like to use clipper over comb, and then I'll follow through with my thinning shears just to lighten up those. I don't know if you ever done clipper over comb, you can kind of see the comb lines from where you're cutting, and then I'll follow up with those thinning shears, just kind of blends them right out. I'm still getting the hang of this clipper over comb thing. It really depends on the client's hair, if it wants to work with you or not. I've had some clients where it just doesn't work out, and then I'll just throw a 4 or 5 guard on and come straight off the head, and it works just the same. It's all preference.
DJ Steel.
As you see, now I'm using the thinning shears, kind of gets those lines out, kind of just hides the imperfections, honestly. go through, use my trimmers, line everything up. Usually doesn't like too much taking off the vertical bar. I do line up the front here a little bit just to kind of sharpen it up, get the crazies off his forehead. Just kind of makes the cut look a lot cleaner. And he likes the bangs in the front a lot longer so he can flip them backwards. And then this is the cut, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I appreciate you guys tuning in.